climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Vielleicht nur als 5%.
You are watching Race to Power on WION World is One. I'm Eric Njoka. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has described as regrettable the announcement by US President Donald Trump that South Africa would not be invited to take part in next year's G20 summit in Florida. And the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has sought an official response from the government amid growing rumors about the health of jailed party founder Imran Khan, urging authorities to immediately facilitate a meeting between him and his family. Welcome to the show. We begin with the United States of America. A fresh incident has come to light as U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement continues its crackdown. ICE agents have detained a woman who has ties to White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt. Bruna Caroline Ferreira is the mother of Levitt's 11-year-old nephew. Officials arrested her and put her in a detention center in Louisiana. Authorities allege that Ferreira has flouted civil immigration norms for which she now faces possible deportation to Brazil, her native country. Bruna Ferreira is a resident of Boston and migrated to the U.S. with her family when she was a child. According to reports, the woman was leaving to pick up her son from school when ICE agents surrounded her car. Department of Homeland Security spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin said that Bruna Ferreira is a, quote, criminal illegal alien. The department further said that the 33-year-old woman had entered the United States on a B-2 tourist visa, which required her to depart the U.S. by the 6th of June 1999. Ferreira has also been arrested earlier for battery. However, Ferreira has maintained her legal status through deferred action for childhood arrivals. DACA is a federal program that grants temporary protection from deportation for those who entered the country as children. The detained woman's attorney also said that Ferreira was already in the middle of a, quote, lawful immigration process for American citizenship. The White House Press Secretary's brother, Michael Levitt, had a relationship with Ferreira. The two share a son. Let's talk to Susan Teherani. She's our correspondent in New York. We are learning that the woman detained by ICE has direct family ties to White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt. What are officials saying about this, and what's the significance of this politically?
Yeah, Eric, it's a very interesting story. The White House is distancing itself and maintains that all immigration enforcement by ICE are independent from the White House. However, politically, really, despite the fact that it appears Caroline Levitt has not spoke to this woman in years, and she was the partner of her brother, and they ceased contact 10 years ago, it really brings to the limelight of how widespread these immigration enforcements are. And almost anyone that you know or someone that knows someone like this woman who was detained. Now, there are talks that she had a criminal record. It appears that Caroline Levitt's brother spoke to this woman and said and advised her to self-deport. She says that her child is here and she's not going to do that. This is according to the woman's sister. But the reason I'm bringing these up is because it also brings to the light, again, politically, how complicated America's immigration system is and how much reform is needed. You have the Obama-era DACA programs for children that came here illegally, and then you have wide-scale enforcement from the Trump administration, on the other hand, which is really the two extremes when it comes to America's immigration system. So that's why this is making headlines, not only because of her connections to Levitt, but also it brings the issue of immigration into the limelight as well. She says that she's been waiting for a green card for 27 years, but that's something I don't think that is going to fly with the Trump administration, even though she says that, you know, she has family ties with Levitt. Levitt is distancing herself from this woman.
All right, let's see how this plays out. Susan Tehran, it's good to see you. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you. U.S. President Donald Trump hailed the dismissal of a long-running case accusing him and his allies of trying to overturn the 2020 election results in the state of Georgia. Trump described the charges as an illegal, unconstitutional, and un-American hoax that should have never been brought in the first place, and added that law and justice has prevailed in Georgia. Judge Scott McAfee granted the dismissal after prosecutor Pete Skandalakis filed a forceful motion arguing that the Georgia racketeering case should not continue. He said the charges tied to Trump's alleged efforts to reverse the 2020 loss in the state were based on federal issues, not state crimes, and that prosecuting a sitting president in Georgia was nearly impossible. The Georgia indictment filed in 2023 accused Trump and 18 court defendants of pressuring state officials to find votes, spreading false claims of fraud, and assembling fake electors. 4 defendants later pleaded guilty to lesser charges. The case had been stalled for months after District Attorney Fani Willis was removed for what a Georgia appeals court called an appearance of impropriety over a relationship with a special prosecutor she hired. Trump had already issued federal pardons to several allies, including Rudy Giuliani and former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, though state charges like those in Georgia are not covered by presidential pardons. Judge McAfee agreed that the trial will be nearly impossible to conduct for the remaining defendants without Trump, granting the motion to dismiss it in full. With that, the final criminal case tied to Trump post-election conduct has now closed. U.S. President Donald Trump has taken his diplomatic offensive against South Africa to a new level. The American president has announced that South Africa would not be invited to next year's G20 summit in Miami. The announcement comes days after U.S. boycotted the G20 Leaders Summit in Johannesburg, which South Africa called a punitive measure against it. The G20 leaders adopted a declaration to address the climate crisis and other global challenges despite U.S. objections, prompting the White House to accuse South Africa of weaponizing its leadership of the group this year. On Truth Social, Trump cited South Africa's refusal to symbolically hand off the G20 presidency at the end of this year's summit to the U.S., adding that at his direction, South Africa would not be receiving an invitation to the 2026 G20 summit, which will be hosted in Miami, Florida. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa's office called Trump's post regrettable. The South African president's office said that despite the efforts and numerous attempts by Ramaphosa to reset the diplomatic relationship with the U.S., President Trump continues to apply punitive measures against South Africa. Trump has repeatedly alleged that South Africa's black majority government persecutes its white minority and that there was a genocide of white farmers in the country. In a White House meeting in May, Trump confronted Ramaphosa with claims of white genocide. Trump said on Wednesday that his administration was going to stop all payments and subsidies to South Africa effective immediately. Back in February, Trump signed an executive order to cut financial assistance for South Africa, citing disapproval of its land policy and of its genocide case at the International Court of Justice against Washington's ally Israel. And for the latest, our correspondent Kalden Ongmu reports from Johannesburg.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa has noted Trump's statement as regrettable. He also confirmed that instruments of the G20 presidency were duly handed over to a U.S. embassy official at the headquarters of South Africa's Department of International Relations and Cooperation. Ramaphosa further added that South Africa is a member of the G20 in its own name and right and does not appreciate insults from another country about its worth in participating in global platforms. He said South Africa will continue to participate as a full, active and constructive member of the G20 and called on members to reaffirm its continued operation in the spirit of multilateralism. The statement from South Africa's presidency further stated that it is regrettable that despite the efforts and numerous attempts by Ramaphosa and his administration to reset the diplomatic relationship with the US, Trump continues to apply punitive measures against South Africa based on misinformation and distortions.
We move to Pakistan. Where is Imran Khan and how is he? His family, his party and Pakistani people are asking this question as the government repeatedly denies access to the jailed former Prime Minister. Meanwhile, the social media is abuzz with rumors. His party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, wants a clarification from the government to quell these rumors. This as the Adiala Jail administration has dismissed reports that Khan has been moved out of the facility. The statement from jail authorities said that Khan remained inside the prison. It added that the PTI founder is in good health and receiving complete medical attention. The former Prime Minister has been held in custody since August 2023, but Khan's party says it wants a formal and transparent statement from the state. PTI also demanded that authorities immediately arrange a meeting between Imran Khan and his family. The party, in its latest statement, warned that the nation will not tolerate any uncertainty regarding the status of Imran Khan. Khyber Pakhtunkhwa Chief Minister Sohail Afridi and other PTI supporters gathered outside the jail on Thursday. Afridi said he was there to inquire about the health of his leader and reiterated that PTI lawmakers will hold peaceful protests outside the Islamabad High Court every Tuesday over delays in the cases against Imran Khan and his wife. Imran's sisters, Alima Khan, Noreen Khan and Uzma Khan, who have been at the forefront of the protests, have claimed they have not been allowed to meet Imran Khan despite court orders. The Islamabad court has allowed his family visitations rights twice a week. PTI supporters claim that former Prime Minister, who was ousted from power after losing a no-confidence vote in 2022, was being held in solitary confinement in inhumane conditions.
Law of jungle prevails here, where only the beast who rules has rights. No one else has any rights.
Chaos erupted on Wednesday after PTI workers and Imran Khan's sisters staged a sit-in demonstration near the Adiala jail checkpost. However, the protest was called off after the jail officials and police assured the sisters that a meeting with the former Prime Minister will be arranged. Separately, Defence Minister Khawaja Asif says that Imran Khan was receiving special privileges in prison. He claimed that the food that comes for him is not available even in a five-star hotel. Asif claimed that the PTI founder had a double bed and a velvet mattress with access to a television. He compared it to what he had faced while behind bars, saying he slept on cold floors, ate jail food, and had only 2 blankets in January with no hot water. Imran Khan is serving a sentence at the Adiala jail in a $1 million corruption case. He also faces pending trials under the Anti-Terrorism Act related to the protests in May 9, 2023. Authorities have charged the PTI founder in around 200 cases, but Khan claims they are politically motivated. A landmark verdict in Dhaka has sent shockwaves through Bangladesh's already fractured political landscape. A Dhaka court has sentenced former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina to 21 years in prison. This is across 3 corruption cases linked to illegal plot allocations under the New Town project. The court found that Hasina and her family secured multiple government plots despite being ineligible, violating legal procedures and exceeding allocation limits. Hasina was sentenced to 7 years in each case, a total of 21 years. Her son, Sajib Wazed Joy, and daughter, Saima Wazed Putul, were also found guilty. Each has been handed 5-year jail terms. The verdict was delivered in her absence as Hasina remains in India after fleeing Bangladesh following last year's student-led uprising that ousted her government. These 3 cases are part of 6 ACC complaints filed in January this year. Verdicts in the remaining 3 are expected on December 1st, potentially escalating the legal pressure even further. This latest ruling comes days after the International Crimes Tribunal sentenced Hasina to death for crimes against humanity related to the 2024 protest crackdown, a verdict her family has called politically motivated. India, which currently hosts Hasina, says it is reviewing Dhaka's extradition request and continues to support peace and democratic stability in Bangladesh. A coup has unfolded in Guinea-Bissau a day before Election Commission was scheduled to announce provisional results of presidential elections. The country now has a military official acting as a transitional president. General Horta Natam announced his appointment as a new leader for a 1-year period. The declaration comes hours after military confirmed complete takeover of the country and shut down all institutions.
I have just been sworn in as President of the High Military Command for the restoration of national security and public order.
Opposition's presidential candidate has raised suspicion on the coup's timing. Fernando Diaz accused the incumbent president of being involved in military takeover plans and declared himself the winner of the presidential polls.
I simply wanted to inform you that once again we are the target of a fabricated coup attempt. I am the winner of the elections. I have polling station reports confirming my victory. I won the elections, so how could I possibly orchestrate a coup? After all, who is behind this?
Voters cast their ballots just 3 days ago on November 23rd, and counting began the very next day. The poll body was expected to announce a provisional result, but everything changed a day before that. Residents of Guinea-Bissau hoped for stability and development during the election process, but with the military coup happening hours ago, there is uncertainty around the country's political future now. And for the latest, our correspondent Louisa Olani reports from Lagos.
Guinea-Bissau has entered yet another certain chapter after the military formally appointed General Horta Tam as transitional president for the next 1 year. This comes just 24 hours after soldiers seized power and arrested the sitting president in what analysts say is the latest sign of instability in this coup-prone West African nation. In a ceremony held at the military headquarters witnessed by AFP journalists, General Ntam took his oath of office, declaring that he has now assumed leadership of the High Command. The atmosphere was tense, with dozens of heavily armed soldiers securing the area, an unmistakable show of force. Now, the military has not given a clear roadmap for the transition or when democratic order will be restored, but it insists the move was necessary to stabilize the country. From Lagos, Nigeria, Louisa Olani, WION World is One.
Switzerland is preparing to vote on an initiative to reform the country's military service. On November 30th, Swiss voters will choose between compulsory military service for men and compulsory civic duty for all. Currently, all Swiss men are required to perform military or civil defense service. However, this does not apply to Swiss women, and that is exactly what the Civic Duty Initiative seeks to change in the upcoming poll. Proponents of the initiative say the current system is discriminatory. It excludes women from useful networks and experiences.
Yes, I think it's good that women are subject to the same, I wouldn't say obligations, but the same constraints as men. I'm for equality. So let's start with civic service. I think it's good that all young people should dedicate a certain amount of their time to public service to participate in the life of society.
But not everyone agrees. Opponents argue that women already dedicate 60% of their time to unpaid tasks. Asking them to provide more unpaid service will only worsen gender inequality.
They already dedicate 60% of their total working time to unpaid tasks, while for men, it's exactly the opposite. 60% of their work is paid, and by asking them to perform even more unpaid work, we are further exacerbating this imbalance between men and women in terms of the work they provide for the community.
In the Swiss parliament, only the Liberal Greens and the Evangelical Party are supporting the initiative. The Federal Council and the majority of parliament has recommended rejecting it. The second item on the ballot is a demand for a new climate tax on big inheritances, but polls suggest that neither initiative is likely to pass. Nigeria has declared a national emergency in the aftermath of the serial mass abductions. Armed gangs kidnapped over 300 children and many adults, creating a security crisis in the country. Nigeria's leader, Bola Tinubu, said in a statement that Nigeria is responding to the national emergency by deploying more boots on the ground, especially in security-challenged areas. Tinubu has ordered police to recruit over 20,000 additional personnel to combat with this new wave of abductions. The recent spate of mass kidnappings in Nigeria has been alarming. Within a few days, Muslim schoolgirls, 38 worshippers, and more than 300 school children and teachers from a Catholic school were kidnapped across the country. Dozens have been rescued and others have escaped, but nearly 265 children and their teachers from a Catholic boarding school in Niger State remain missing. Locals are horrified and many have expressed fear in traveling as usual. Parents of kidnapped children are demanding answers from authorities, putting Bola Tinubu's regime under scrutiny.
It's not a business. It's not a business. When you say you kidnap somebody and you are requesting money from them, is that not a business? How do you want to stop that? So the government has to do more. I don't see any reason why they will say they will be negotiating with terrorists. For what? Collecting money. It's not fair.
And finally, on Race to Power, thousands took to the streets in Bulgaria's capital, Sofia, to protest against the steep tax hikes proposed in next year's budget. Thank you for watching. We'll leave you this report.
We protest against this fundamental budget because it threatens to seriously harm a large portion of working Bulgarians, the middle class. This is unacceptable. The government continues to funnel resources into the power structures and an oversized administration that is in desperate need of deep systemic reform.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.